Hello and welcome to Excel Essentials. In this session, we'll be doing a Power Query Masterclass. Now, we're going to look at importing and getting data first of all, because that is what you need to do with Power Query. And the first method we're going to look at is pulling from a text file or a CSV file. Now, I'll demonstrate both types of importing data for a text file and a CSV file, but they're both part of the same option in Excel. Now, if you ever need to import data using Power Query, it will be found under the data part of your ribbon. So if we go to data and then in the ribbon, we can see where we can get data from. There's also a drop down where it can show you all the different places where you can pull data from. But what we're going to do is we're going to start off with from text or CSV. So once we click that, then what will happen is it will load a window for us. And here is where we will end up choosing our file. Now we're going to start off with the CSV and we're going to select this Power Query.csv file. Now CSV stands for comma separated value. And if we click import, then we will get an option to have a look at the data. So as you can see here, it's automatically tried to make sense of the data in the file. And as you see, we have some roles, some grades, and some salaries. Now, if we were to actually go and open up the CSV file, it would also try and make sense of this in Excel automatically. And most of the time, it will try and resolve it to a table-like format. And as you see, it's highlighted the delimiter as comma. If it had a different delimiter and it wasn't automatically picked up, then you could choose your own or one of the various other options here, but we're going to leave that on comma. Now, when you're importing the data, you have two methods that you can do it. You can either load the data, which will just bring it straight into Excel for you, or you can transform the data before doing so. But we're just going to click on the little down arrow at the moment and click Load To. And here we're going to select Existing Worksheet, and we're just going to select here in the text CSV file. We're going to click to put back into the big old view of the Import Data window, and then we're going to click OK. Now on the right hand side, we see the Queries and Connections pane open up, and this will tell us about our queries when we go to refresh them and their states. At the moment, we're just going to rename this query to CSV, and this will have no impact on the table at all. So if we were to go to data and click refresh all, it's still pulling in the same CSV file. Now we're going to have a look at using a text file to be imported instead. So we're going to click from text or CSV, and we're going to select our text file. Now what we see here is that it doesn't have a set column header and it's got rows in the file, and it's tried to make sense of it. So if we were to try and emulate and choose a different delimiter, let's say this is how we wanted it to be, and then let's click Load To, and we're just going to select Existing Worksheet, and we're just going to select our cell just to make sure it's imported into the right worksheet. Then we'll click OK, and as you see, it's now loaded in. We're just going to rename this back to text, just so we know what it is as we go along in the masterclass. Now let's have a look at importing from the web. Now let's say we have a table in a website. So for example, I'm going to want to try and pull in a table from this Wikipedia page, and I want it in my Excel. Now this is how we can do it. So let's click on From Web, and we'll let Excel load. Now there are two ways. We can go via basic or advanced. We're just going to stick with basic, and we're just going to come back to our Wikipedia page, and then we're going to copy the URL for it. Then here what we're going to do is we'll paste it in, and then we'll click OK. Now Once you've clicked OK, you'll get this sort of window. This window will be familiar when you're connecting and importing other data sources for or from SharePoint or any other areas. But we're going to stick with anonymous as this is open to anyone on the internet. And then we're going to click connect. So whilst it's connecting, it will try and load the information from the website and try and pick out tables where possible. This will take a while for it to do, and it will work away in the background. Once it finishes loading, which can take a while depending on how many tables there may be on a web page, you will get a navigator menu. And here you can click through all the different tables to look through and find the actual table that you are looking for. If, for example, it isn't available, you can try and have a look for it in the web view to kind of see what table matches specifically what you were looking for or looking to extract from that web page. But generally, the table view is good enough. If you need to import more than one table, that is also possible. You just need to enable the select multiple items. But for this scenario, we're just going to choose one that we want to import. So here we're just going to scroll through and we're just going to find a table and pick it. So let's just pick this one, for example. And here what we're going to do is we are going to load that into our web sheet. So we're going to change existing worksheet and we're going to select cell A1 on our web worksheet. Click OK, and as you can see, it's loading in. Now I'm just going to rename this to web, and as you see, it's now updated and saved. You can also import data from an image. Now there are two ways you can do this. You can take it from a picture file, such as a JPEG or a PNG, or you can copy it from an image directly. Now, we're just going to go to from picture and we're going to choose picture from file first. And here you will search for the image on your device and then you'll click insert. Now on the right hand side, a pane will pop up called data from picture and it will analyze the screenshot, the image of the data that you have. And here it will also highlight any piece of data where it wasn't able to identify the characters, the digits, or where it's concerned about actually putting in information. So as you can see, there's quite a few problems with the data here, such as missing information and information not looking correct. Wherever it's not sure, it will highlight it in red and you can go to review. Now it'll have items for you to review normally, but you can go through and review manually as well. So this one looks correct, so we'll just click accept. This one's wrong, so we would retype it in as driver, then click accept. This one's correct. This one isn't correct, and you would go through all of that and make your amendments. Even where it misses information, so I'm just going to click close for the moment, you can input the information as well. So if we click 1, click accept, hit 1 and accept, number 3 accept, number 4 and accept, you can add in where it's missed any information as well. You can even click on the boxes which are red to go and correct them directly without going through the review pane. So that is just some of the flexibility which is offered within Excel from getting it from a picture. Once you're done and happy, and let's say we are at this stage, we can click Insert Data. If you're happy with the rest of it and you've reviewed it and you haven't gone through to accept it, you can insert anyway. And as you can see, it's pulled it through into the table for us. The thing is, this will not be refreshable. This will be left as static. Now let's go and do the same with an image from the web. So here I search for a table with some data, and this is just an image that is available from LifeWire. So we're going to right click and click copy image. Now we're going to head back to Excel, and this time we're going to go to from picture, but we're going to hit picture from clipboard. And now it will do the same thing and analyze the image and return the data that it can. This one is managed to pick out everything correctly, although you can give it a once over to make sure you're happy. Once you're ready and done, you can click insert data, and there you go. It will import it the same way when you did the picture from file, and as per that one, the data will be static too. It will not appear in the queries and connections pane at all. And then here you can make any amendments as well as you wish, such as removing the first column and removing the first row. You can even import tables from a PDF. Now, this one is a little bit more difficult because it actually needs to be a table within a PDF. It can't be an image, can't be a screenshot. It has to be an actually created table. So this is what it kind of needs to look like. And this is the table that we are going to import from the PDF. So we're going to go to Get Data, then From File, and then choose From PDF. Then we're going to choose our cookie cells by region, and here it will identify the pages and the tables for us. So we're just going to choose table 001, and for the moment we're just going to load it to our PDF sheet. And then when we click OK, we can see that has now loaded in. And we're just going to rename this PDF. Now, as you see here, we've got a table within Excel. And we know it's a table because we see the table design element of the ribbon visible. And as you see, this table is called table 5. Now, we're going to create and import this data into Power Query. So we're going to go to Data and select from Table or Range. And as you see, it automatically imports it into a Power Query editor. Now, what we can do just straight away is go to the down arrow on Close and Load and click Close and Load to. Then here we'll click Existing Worksheet and we'll select the first table range sheet and select cell A1 and click OK. And as we see, that table 5 has now imported into the table range, and it looks exactly the same as it does in the demo here. Now, here we just have a normal arrangement of cells, and this is just a range of data. It's not a table at the moment, and we know it's not because we can't see table design or anything referencing a table here at the moment. Now, if we were to go and import this into Power Query, we'd have to go to Data in from Table or Range, and this will ask you to create a table by default. Let's say our table has headers like it does here, and we're just going to click OK. And as you see here, it now opens up the Power Query editor like it did for the actual table. We'll just close and load this to table range 2, and once that's done, we'll see table 7 load in. You can also insert from other Excel files as well into Excel. So we're going to go to Get Data from File, and we're going to select from Excel Workbook. Now, because this is saved locally, we can just choose this one. And here we get the navigator pop up, and we can have a look through the sheets. Because there's only one sheet in here, we can just select sheet 1. For the moment, we're just going to load it to the Excel worksheet. So we'll just place that there, click OK. And here we're just going to rename this to Excel Workbook. You can also import files from a folder. So let's bring up our workbook galore. And as you see, we've got data from 2016 all the way through to 2023. Now we need to import that all into one big Power Query. We can do that by going to Get Data, From File, and then there's a From Folder option. Now we're going to choose Workbooks Galore and we're going to click Open. Then we're going to get this navigation window, and here what we're going to do is we're going to choose Combine, and we're going to choose Combine and Load To at the moment. So what this is going to do is it's going to try and evaluate all those files which are available, and it's going to give us a first file and allow us to build off of that because they're all the same. So we're going to choose Sheet 1, we're going to go from the first file, and we're going to click OK. Now we're going to import into existing worksheet, so we're just going to use the cell in folder. We're going to click OK. And now we can see the queries and connections have changed. And we can now see Workbooks Galore has loaded with each file name as well situated here. And finally, you can create it from a blank query too. So if we go to Get Data and then choose From Other Sources, we can see blank query at the bottom. Now, if we click on that, we'll get the Power Query editor. Now for this, we're just going to call this last refresh, for example, where you can then put in your source as equals date time dot local. Now, and then end that with a bracket, then you can get the exact current date and time now, for example. Or what you can do is you can then go and pull through any other data sources as needed, such as pulling through stuff from the Power Platform, from a database, from SharePoint, anything from Azure, Exchange Online, SharePoint lists, and more. But we're just going to keep it with this last refreshed. And we're going to click Close and Load To. And we're going to do the same as we have with the others and just put it in our blank query sheet. And then as you see, that one is now refreshed and it has loaded. And you might be thinking, oh, what if I want to get this changed into a specific format? You can also do that too by hitting Control 1 and then editing your custom here. So what we're going to do is we're going to the day, then we're going to have the number, then we're going to have the month name in shorthand as well, then we're going to have the year, and then we're going to have at, and then we'll just have the time in hours, minutes, and seconds as well. So we're just going to do triple D to get shorthand date, double D to get that number, triple M to get that shorthand month, space, and then the year. And then to get the at in, we're just going to do speech marks, and we're going to type in at with spaces between, or you can ignore the spaces so you can have it joined up like this. And then HH for hours, colon MM for minutes, colon SS for seconds, then click OK, and now you have that updated. So whenever you refresh, so if we just refresh the last refresh only, then as you can see, it's updated just, and the formatting has remained the same. Now we're going to look at transforming the data that we have. And now transforming the data, we'll be using the Power Query Editor, which we've seen a couple times just previously. And let's say you want to edit your existing queries. So we're going to start off with this CSV one. You'll go to Data and then click on Queries and Connections. Then as you can see, we're in this CSV one. So we would just double click on CSV to bring up the Power Query Editor. Now I'm just going to make this full screen. And as you can see, there are some steps here on the query settings on the right hand side. Now, these kind of detail what is happening to your data here. And for the CSV, we can see we've got the roles, we've got the grades, and we've got the salary. Now, as you can see next to each of the headings, there are this little box with an identifier in ABC 123, which you can identify as being text and numbers. But if you click on it, you can see different types of data types, which you can use and amend to. So say for salary, for example, we want that to be in a currency. So we would just click on salary and then we'd click on currency. Now we can click add new step so that it changes the type. And now we can see the commas are added in, as well as the cents or pence, depending in what region you are. But say for whatever reason you accidentally change a data type to the wrong thing, or you accidentally delete a column like we have here. What you can do is you can click on the X in the steps and it will delete that step and take it backwards. Let's say you've made a change to the data type of the column and you've made multiple at the same time and you want to take it back, you can change that in the bar as well. So as you see, we have one data type being changed here, and that is salary to currency.type. And then we have grade, the one that we've accidentally done here. So we're going to select from the comma and select it, and we're going to hit delete. Now, once we come out and we hit enter, we can see the data type has now reverted to number, and now they are all aligned to the right hand side. Once you're happy with your changes that you've made, you can then close and load it to Excel. Or you can just click on the save and it will load in those changes you've made to that specific one. Now let's move on to text. And as you see, we have our text file here. So we're just going to double click and go into text. You can also switch between the queries here on the left hand side at any time. But now we're going to just focus on text. And as you see, we have different columns here. And what we can do is we can name the columns if we wish. So if we double click into column 1, we can call it start, for example, and that will be renamed. Let's say column 3, I want to call it end, and now that has been renamed. And you can also drag and reorder the columns in whatever way you wish to do so. But let's say, for example, you also want to filter. You can filter out the blank and remove the empty, and you will get only the values where it's not empty, for example. And you can always delete that step as you can and have done so previously. If you ever want to refresh the data, you can click on refresh preview and it will reload it in for you. So if we go back to the file, which came from text from file v2, we're going to add in a new row. We're going to call it Power Query is so cool. And we're going to save that. And we're going to close that. And then we're going to refresh the Power Query editor. And as you see, it's now pulled it in and it's applied all those steps too. So if we hit close and load, Power Query editor is now going to run and it's updated our file for us. Now let's have a look at editing the web one. So as you can see, we have the round, the Grand Prix, the pole position, and it's a repetition of what is in the headers. Now there's two ways you could clear this. You could use first row as headers, to which it will promote it for you, and it will automatically create that. Or if we delete this, we could also remove the top row, to which we would then put in 1, then click OK, and it would perform the same action. But let's use the first row as headers. We would also filter out the source row, and then that way we would get the round number, the Grand Prix, the pole position, fastest lap, winning driver, winning constructor, and the report. We probably don't need the report, so we can delete that, and the round can be a whole number. Now if we look at this, it looks a little better, which is good, and then we can close and load that to the table. And as you see now it's finished, it has 22 rows loaded, and that is the 22 rounds from that season. Now we're going to edit the PDF one. So if we double click and head into PDF, we can see that we have a first row, and then we have the columns we need. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove the top row first, and then we're going to use the first row as headers in conjunction. Then the total sales we could convert into currency, in which we'll add a new step. And as you see, we have an error. Now, if we go into view, we could click on column quality, and here we can have a look at what the error is. And as you see, it couldn't convert the value. So this is telling us we need to do something else first. So we're going to delete that step, and we're going to delete this changed type. Now what we're going to do is we're going to replace a value in that column to allow us to convert it into currency. So we're going to replace the $ with nothing, and we're going to click OK. Then we're going to try and redo that currency, and as you see, it's now added that in. The number of orders is now number as we made that change, and region is west, north, south, and east, and is in the text format, the same as the sales rep. And as we can see, all of the columns have valid responses in data, which means there are no issues and there aren't any null values. And then we're going to hit close and load, and then we'll see this table transform. And then here you can select the column, and you could click on the currency of your choice, and there you go, that is brought in for you. You could also perform the same actions on, or similar actions on, the table or range ones. But here we're going to do something else to show you what else you can do. So for the total sales, we're going to want to convert that into being a number. So we're going to replace the $ symbol with nothing, and we'll just leave the comma in and convert this to a whole number or currency. It's completely up to you, but we're going to leave it with currency, and then we're going to add a number filter to that. And we only want to show where we had more than 50,000 in revenue, in sales. So we're going to click is greater than, and we're going to type in 50,000. Once we're happy, we'll click OK. And as you see, that's filtered our data. And let's say we wanted it for a specific location, or we wanted it in order from location. We can also do that. So let's say in ascending order, so east, north, south, and west, or if we wanted it in order of sales rep name. So let's sort in ascending this way. So it will apply this first, and it will have to match that before it sorts the sales rep column. Now we can remove the region one, and it will just do the sales rep. So we would have Frank at the top. So if we let that go and delete it, the sales rep is now there. And then if we hit close and load, we should see this table change. And then we can obviously add in that currency format again. But don't forget, this is also pulling from our demo table. So if I was to change this value for Harry at 41,676 to 81,676, and then go back to our table 5, and then I was to click refresh, we now see Harry is now populated in because now he meets that 50,000 or more criteria. And the same can be done on this table too, but don't forget they are the same data sets and you can perform the same actions on them as well. Now we're going to work on this Excel workbook one. And in this, we are just going to sort out some dates, some numbers, and some customer IDs. So if we click into Excel workbook, as you can see, we have our purchase number, our date of purchase, our customer ID, and an item code. Now, let's say we wanted to change what the item code to being the item. We could just replace the values, which for this, there aren't many different items, so you can do this manually as well. So you'd search for replace values, and then we would click on advanced options and then match entire cell contents. So if it was A_1, and let's say this was a pencil case, you can then click OK, and as we see, it completes that for us. But then you might be thinking it's actually ruining the data because you're actually losing the item code. That's okay, you can undo that step as well. And we can add a column. So we're going to do add column, and then we're going to do custom column. And now our custom column, we're going to call it item. And in here, we want it to equal the item code, and we're just going to select that. And then we're going to click OK. And as you see, this now matches what's here. And here is now when we can do that, and it won't affect the item code column. So if we do that A_1 again, and type in pencil case, and we can select that match entire cells, click OK, we can now see that change has taken effect. And then we can continue doing that for all the different ones as well. And then once you're happy with all the changes, you can click close and load. And then that will go and update the table here. And now we have that new custom column added as well. Now, if we go into folder, we have our workbooks galore, where we have all the joint workbooks that are in that folder, including all the dates as well. Now we have customer IDs, purchase numbers, and more. And let's open this up into Power Query Editor. And as you can see, we have the source name. Now, let's say we want to add an index column. We can go to Add Column and click Index Column. Now, as you can see, this has started from 0. We can change this if we want to start it at 1 as well, and it will increment by 1. So that first element, which we just changed here, where it was 0 before, is just what value to start it at. If I put in 55, it would begin at 55. And then if I just revert that to 1, and this is telling what it will increment by. So if I make that 2, you can see it goes 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and so on. But let's leave it to the normal 1 increment, and this is what it looks like. Now what we're going to do is we're going to rename this index column as purchase code. And we're going to just reorder the columns so it's here next to purchase number. Now we don't need the source name, so we can delete that. Then we have all our customer IDs, and we can also sort the dates in ascending order, just to make sure they are in order of each other. And here we go. And then once we're happy, we can click close and load, and then it will load it into the existing table. If we were, for example, to add in a new file, let's call it 2024. And let's just put this as the 1st of January 2025, and we're just going to put one purchase in there. I'm going to delete these rows, and we're going to rename that, but let's call this the 2024 file. Then if we come back to here and we went to refresh it, we can see now there is a 75th row, whereas before it said 74. And if we go to the bottom of this table, we can see that the 1st of January 2025 is here and it's visible from that file. Now, if we go into Workbooks Galore in the Power Query editor, we can backtrack and have a look at where this has come from. So if we go back to added index, because we know we had the source name, and if we scroll all the way to the bottom and click refresh preview, it's always good to refresh the preview when you come in. We can now see a new row, Testbook 2024, which is that file we've just created as well. And then you can, because we've not made any changes, we can just click X to come out of the Power Query editor. And finally, you can refresh the data at any time in your Excel. All you have to do is go to Data, and then click on Refresh All. And then you can see all your queries in the Queries and Connections pane, all loading and refreshing. You may even notice a running background query at the bottom right, depending if you've got a large data set running. But other than that, your data will refresh itself. Stay tuned for more Excel Essentials.